Welcome to The Art of Balance. Hi, my name is Rona Parsons, the Balance Coach, and today I'd like to share with you 7 tips on why it is so important to have great posture. The first tip I'd like to share with you is in regards to the breath. The breath is something that we do many thousands of times a day, and it is so important that we can breathe efficiently and effectively. I'm sure you'll agree with me that when we are feeling down, when the world gets us down, our posture is somewhat like this, or perhaps not that bad. But if you think about the way the body breathes, as we breathe in, the rib cage needs to expand to allow the lungs to expand, to allow the belly to come out. If we are in this position, the body is not breathing effectively. And this is a reason why great posture is so important for the breath. The second tip I'd like to give you is that great posture promotes a positive image. It gives us self-confidence, and it gives us a great stride when we walk. You will never see a person who is happy and joyous in a position like this. And likewise, you'll never see anybody depressed with their body open, ready to receive whatever the world has to give them. Tip number 3 is when we have great posture, our blood flow is improved, and it keeps our nerves and our blood vessels healthy and open. Tip number 4 is that great posture keeps our bones and joints healthy and keeps everything in alignment so that your muscles are being used correctly with every move that you create. Tip number 5 is all about the natural curves of our spine. And if you were to look up great posture on Google, another name for it is neutral spine. So our neutral spine starts at the top of the neck and goes to the tops of our thighs. There are 3 natural curves of the spine. There is the concave, which is our lower back. Mid to upper back is the convex. And then our other concave is our neck. So when we have this beautiful, natural, neutral spine, which I will be sharing with you in a few moments on how to achieve that, there is less chance of us having low back or neck pain. Tip number 6 is about balance. When our body is in a great posture, we've created balance on either sides of the spine, and so the body is being supported equally when we do any movement patterns, or even when we're just sitting. And tip number 7 is that the body will move more effectively, more efficiently, and with ease and grace. When the body is moving this way, it uses less energy, which prevents fatigue. So how do we create neutral spine? How do we create this great posture? Well, from a standing position, we want to make sure that our feet are hip width apart. I'm going to get into the corner here so you can see my feet. We're going to roll to the outsides of our feet, and we're going to cross the balls of our feet and spread our toes. And I'd like you to feel your weight under the balls of the feet and the heels. From there, I'd like you to lift up the arches of the feet, even energetically. Think about lifting them up by tightening the muscles up the sides of the legs, and then start to lift the kneecaps by tightening your thighs. Once we have the muscles tightened, we can allow that energy to float down the backs of the legs. If we don't have our kneecaps lifted, the chances of us hyperextending our knees is greater. And as you can see now, my weight is more underneath my heels and my knees are past my hips. I almost feel like I'm going to fall over. So now to get our neutral spine in our core, I'd like you to find your hip bones and find the space at the back. So we should have a nice alignment. Now I want you to imagine that your pelvis is like a bowl of water. So let's spill the water out the front of the bowl. Do you feel that? Do you feel any tension in your lower back? And now let's spill the water out the back of the bowl. Do you notice how your tail tucks under and your buttocks tightens? Okay, so let's release that. And now bring your pelvis to a position where it's not spilling water out the front or out the back. Great. Okay, so now I'd like you to grab your ribs and I'd like you to pull them up. I'd like you to create space between your hips and your ribs. See, a lot of time we tend to sit in the bowl. So we want to create space. We want to create length in the spine. And once we've got that space, I want you to imagine that your rib cage is a box. So again, we don't want to be tipping the box forward because this will happen. We don't want to tip the box back because then we become more military. We actually want the box to sit over top of the bowl. So if you take your thumbs and place them on the bottom of your rib cage and place your middle fingers on your pelvis bones, we want to have them aligned. We want them to be in a great alignment. Perfect. Okay, hold that there. So now we're going to focus on our shoulder blades. We're going to bring our shoulders up to our ears. We're going to take them back. We're going to bring them down, and I'd like you to latch them forward. So what I mean by that, this is the outside of your shoulder blade. I want you to think about pulling the shoulder blade to the front of the body so that your shoulder blades are sitting nice and flat and even against the rib cage. If that visual doesn't work for you, think about grabbing this part of the skin at the back of the arm and pulling it to the center of your underarm so that we're standing with our shoulder blades wide, sitting against the ribs. The box is sitting over top of the bowl, and the bowl is not spilling water anywhere. Excellent. And now the arms are just dangling at your side. So now let's think about our neck. A lot of times when we're sitting at a computer or we're doing a lot of driving, we tend to have a poke neck. But do you see what just happened to the rest of my body when I poked my chin forward? My back rounded and I flattened out. So you can see how the lower back and the neck are very associated with each other. So let's get that bowl back in position. Let's get the ribs sitting over top. And I want you to think about creating length in the back of your neck. You'll feel at the back of your neck, there's a nice little soft spot. Can you feel that? Just touch it gently with 2 fingers, just to feel that. So now what I'd like you to do is actually look up at the ceiling. And I want you to notice how jammy that gets, how tight and even cranky, okay? Now, I'd like you to look down at the floor and notice how flat it gets. Now I'd like you to think you're sitting at your computer and notice how jammy. So what we need to do is go back to that soft spot. When our neck is in a soft spot, then it's in more of a neutral alignment. I'd also like you to think of your head like a balloon, that it's floating on top of your neck, as opposed to just there or being pulled from above. So, pelvis, our bowl of water is not spilling water. We've created space between our ribs and our hips. Our rib cage, also known as the box, is sitting over top of the bowl. Our shoulder blades are latched in position, or we're pulling that skin toward the center of the underarm. And now our neck has a beautiful, soft little spot at the back of the neck, and the head is just floating. Does this feel strange to you? Or does it feel very light, that you're not being pulled down anywhere, that you're standing very tall? You feel ease, you feel grace. And it feels as though your body would move very efficiently. Excellent. Okay, let's practice sitting now. Let's see what happens when we sit. So I have with me a ball and a cushion. And what I'd like you to do is just sit down. Actually, I'll move my chair back a little bit so you can see better. I'd like you to sit down. Okay. And now I'd like you to think about looking at the computer or driving, and just notice what your body starts to naturally do. I practice posture all day long. I teach posture all day long, but I too find myself once in a while, if I'm desperately looking for something on Google, which I've done that quite a few times, you know, the chin starts to go forward. We get that crankiness in the back of the neck. But then what I do is I grab my ball. This ball is fantastic. It's about 7 inches. It's very squishy. And I place it at the bottom of my spine, in my lumbar spine, in the first concave that we have. Do you notice now that my spine is in neutral? A neutral spine is when our ears line up with our shoulders, line up with our hip. And if we were standing, it would be the same, going down to the knees and just in front of the ankle. So now that I have the ball here, and if you don't have a ball, it's very easy to grab a cushion and place that behind you as well, just to give you that support in your lumbar spine. Another great thing about this is when we start to lean forward now, rather than leaning forward from our waist, which is a tendency that we tend to do, we now need to be able to hinge from the hips. So if you're a person that likes to round and you've just realized that you do round, just place your fingers right here, right in the groin, and now hinge forward, and immediately you should squish your fingers. By doing this on a regular basis, this is going to really help you promote posture. And one more tip I'd like to give you. The next time you get into your car, I'd like you to sit up nice and tall, grab your rear view mirror, and adjust it to the height of your head. And never again adjust your rear view mirror. Always adjust your posture.